Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds. Let in the love.
And listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world. He was among us in every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in our soul. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a better place, a whole new world,
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear at 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rev. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, this is one of my favorite nights of the year for doing episodes.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love spooky time.
Yes, we have a pre-Halloween night tonight, so we get to do our seasonal scary music night.
Gotta love it. What makes music sound scary? Lots of different
Yeah,
things.
well, I titled it "Where's the Beef in Creep?"
Yeah, exactly.
And
Gotta find it.
actually, what we're going to be covering tonight is going to look at where the beef is. To the IT cave, the evolution.
Yep. Gotta
So,
see it.
there's a few past favorites in here because there's been a couple as we've looked over the past Halloweens. Our last 5 years. There's a few that I needed to bring back in because they're so good. And there's a couple of freshies, some new ones with some different insight into uh, whether you're using your instruments to sound creepy or using certain notes and certain chords.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see from different perspectives on how to get creepy with your music.
Now, I think everyone can agree that a theremin sounds creepy. It's like one of the creepiest sounding instruments just on its own.
Yeah, I almost had a video dedicated to just the theremin.
Yep. Almost have to.
And that other one, the water bowl. I found a video on how to make one.
Sure.
I may make
Water
my own.
glasses. Yeah. It's a matter of marking the glasses because that was a project that, actually my sister did that years ago for a school project at one point, making the water glasses and then playing a song on the water glasses as if it was a piano.
Yeah, I have to be able to cut little pipes though.
In this
Gonna
case,
have
it's just a matter of how much water you put in each glass.
Yeah, I
and
got
then
to
marking
tap
that
into
spot.
my dad's tools.
He's got an awesome set of tools.
So
I can fix it.
the one we're gonna start with is going to be coming from Reverb. And this is a great like short documentary on the evolution of film music. Horror music and film has really come a long way, and it's part of the reason why I started playing music. I wanted to make horror music, and this one's going to take a look back at some of the monumental screen songs that really brought the scare.
And sometimes it only takes two notes.
And you're gonna see that theme.
I can imagine.
Jaws will be mentioned many times tonight.
Yeah.
It really does is a staple in that EF kind of approach.
Yeah, it's all it takes.
Yep, and then we've got one from Adeline 6418, um, and she goes into some of the things that we find creepy, some of the things that bring the scare to our emotions. So we're going to take a little psychological look um, after the history and see how sound can cause fear.
Nice.
And then I like this one. Sideways 440 is going to cover some of the techniques, some of the approaches, and his philosophy is jump scares overused, not always like the best approach, and he's going to talk about the jump scare approach and why you might want to consider some alternatives.
A
And
little sneezing fit over here.
oh, bless you.
Thank you.
And then Damien Gauchi, another Freshie channel, and he also asks the question, how to make scary music, and covers some of the techniques that complement what we're going to be talking about in the jump scare video. So it's really more of a philosophy on different approaches to getting that scary sound. It's not
Mhm,
just the instruments, it's not just the notes, it's a
mhm.
approach on both sides.
Yeah. And there's ways to go about it where you can go from, scary notes like the EF thing you're talking about there to a scary instrument like a theremin doing something different. And then you go into something where it's a scary scale, like a diminished arpeggio or something.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing you're going to hear from some of them as they talk about techniques, cognitive dissonance
Yep.
comes into play when you hear something that you think should be like, oh, this puts babies to sleep, but
Mhm,
you put it into the right horror movie at the right time, and it keeps adults up all night.
Oh, yeah. In a similar way that you don't expect to find something like Stuck in the Middle with You in the end of Reservoir Dogs, like that kind of thing. Like there's a very much of a disconnect, as you're saying, between you're expecting and what you're seeing.
Yeah, and they actually talk about it both from the horror movie approach and the
Mhm.
comedy approach.
Yep.
Because if you use it right, whether it's horror or comedy, you can really play with the viewer's mind.
Mhm. Yep, definitely.
And then
Mhm.
this guy. It's
Nice.
kind of a tradition. We have to have signals in on Halloween night.
Mhm.
He had four different videos that he's done over the years that really cover some of these topics. And I wanted to use this one in one of our other Halloweens. So, yay! Thank
Nice.
God it's Halloween again.
Yep, yep. No, I definitely wanted to check out his approach because a lot of times it is about the mode specifically, but in this case, we'll probably get into several reasons or several things that make something spooky.
Well, he's got a method of spook, and he's got six spooky secrets that composers use to get that spook.
Nice.
And we love the way he explains things. And
Yep.
speaking of love who explain things,
Yep.
one of the first channels that you ever turned me on to,
Hmm.
um, it's not Nari's channel. It's actually Soundfield. This is one of the channels she works with to do some of the stuff for public television.
Hmm.
Great learning resource. The way she explains it, her and her partner, they're working on a project and they've got to make a scary score to go to their video, and she's going to talk about all the theory behind getting your spook on.
Nice. And
Yeah.
again, no better way to break it down because we've seen the way she broke down individual composer styles. And just while she's playing something, she's like putting all these different pop up things on screen showing different aspects that are definitive of that style or of that composer that, make you feel like you were listening to something by Beethoven versus something by Mozart, for example.
Yeah. Given her understanding of how emotions work with notes, scary music, she obviously gets how that affects us emotionally.
Yep. And fearless about diving into styles that even if they're not familiar to her as well.
Yep. And then to finish off, at Matt Draper does a fantastic short documentary on one of my biggest horror movie idols, John Carpenter. And I really wanted to, give John some love tonight, to show like the influence he has had on not just horror music and movies, sci-fi music. He used the theremin a couple of times in his movies too.
Oh yeah.
And his philosophy behind approaching not just making the music for the movie, but also making the movie. I think that's why his music always stood out and his movies always stood out, because his connection between the composing and the directing was seamless.
And to me, the music is always one of the most important parts about movies. Like the things that really move me in movies is usually the music and how it really grabs you at certain points.
Oh, hi, Maha.
What's happening?
Yes, it is very nourishing for the brain, highly educational. That's our
Always
our
try
mantra.
To be. Yep. Always try to be.
So before we look at the legend that is John Carpenter, we're going to take a look at the history of horror movies going back to pretty much the beginning. I mean, even the silent films, horror movies started creeping their way in at the beginning of Hollywood.
Yep. And that's the thing, is there's an appetite for it for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And this one's going to be coming from at Reverb. Awesome equipment site, tons of reviews. I mean, they're basically like Sweetwater of, pre-owned and lots of artists and people who really know the gear and review it. This is a great site if you're considering buying equipment. You should always check here along with Sweetwater and see what kind of deals you can get, especially if you're not looking for something brand new. They got some of the best deals.
Definitely.
That's at Reverb. And for this one, this is What Makes Horror Music Scary, a brief history of horror music, horror movie music.
I like it.
Oh, we've got to switch to the Talkin Shhh I.T panel.
Over there.
Here we go.
Let's talk about horror music. Through the years, horror films have scared the living out of us, keeping us awake at night and terrified to walk alone in the dark. I'd like to discuss how the music of these films has played a significant role in executing these dark stories, and in some cases has completely shaken the way that we experience horror. Although the silent era brought us wonderfully terrifying films, such as The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu, both of these films have been rescored numerous times because of, in the case of Nosferatu, original music not surviving, and in the case of Caligari, repurposed music being used originally. So let's get past the silent era and start with Bride of Frankenstein. This score, composed by Franz Waxman, is completely epic and fantastical. It is a very golden age of Hollywood score, so there is a lush, romantic quality to it as well. Interesting how the use of a pulsing timpani was probably at the time very menacing. There is very little subtlety here. Entrances are scored with big presence. Big moments have big sounds. Another popular piece of horror music from the Golden Age is the score for Horror of Dracula. Not the original 1931 Dracula, which originally had no music, but the 1958 version, starring Christopher Lee and scored by James Bernard. In this score, personification of the villain is reflected in the main theme. Maybe cheesy by today's standards, but very effective in 1958, and perhaps lived in the subconscious of the audience. Similar to Bride, lots of music, the space is filled, the score is heavily relied upon to create the horror. As Dracula struts across the set, the music reflects his movement with lurking dark qualities, and his main 3-note theme is played almost every time we see him or hear his name mentioned. Next up, the game changer. Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho marked a significant shift in composition and our collective horror intake. The opening prelude and the first few scenes, the music is, yes, scary, but it's moody, it's unnerving, but not in a big obvious way. It is suggestive that something isn't right, but doesn't give you too much. And then, of course, the string stingers in the shower scene. A moment that lives and dies as maybe the greatest of the horror genre. And to think that Hitchcock actually didn't want music in this scene initially. Psycho also made a particularly wonderful use out of the jump scare, which is something that is now expected in horror films, but Hitchcock's were early examples, and his influence probably set off a trend of jump scares. Okay, let's stop there and talk about Jaws. Two notes. The music in Jaws is subtlety to the max. The fact that John Williams was able to personify the shark with 2 notes is simply incredible. Beyond that, he uses the same motif and varies the tempo to give us a sense of how close the shark is. Again, so simple and brilliant. This is similar to Bride and Dracula because of its strong use of a character theme. In proper John Williams form, this score is also graced with heroism and wonderful musicality. Although for most people, its influence could be deduced to those 2 notes. Only 1 year after the groundbreaking Jaws, a completely different technique was put into play by Jerry Goldsmith in his score for The Omen. This score, in my opinion, marks a distinct change in 2 ways. Firstly, the use of the human voice. And second, this music sounds like it is coming from a very specific place. Hell. Other scores have scared us in large, wondrous ways, or even in direct, more personal ways, but the Omen score suggests what we must imagine to be the tones of hell, and it does it with our own voice. In the few years following, the human voice was used in other memorable film scores as well, including the unmistakable character theme scored with human voice for the killer in Friday the 13th. This score is filled with excitement, Psycho-esque string pulses, and then the character theme. which was apparently composer Harry Manfredini's voice with an echoplex delay. Another creepy voice score was composed by Goblin for Dario Argento's Suspiria. This score also employed some rock and roll elements and some synth sounds. Another game changer here. The minimal approach that John Carpenter took for his Halloween score is what gives it so much terror. This is the opposite of the Golden Era film scores in one way, that it does not rely on a fantastical idea. This is reality horror. Suburban, in your neighborhood, on your block, in your house horror. The music directly reflects this dread. It's a menacing pulse, and it's right in your front yard. It is similar to the Golden Era scores in that it has a strong character theme that we hear many, many times in the film. The synthesizer would play a hugely influential role for horror music in the coming era. All of a sudden, composers were empowered to create frightful sounds on a low budget. Only a few years prior, filmmakers and studios may have needed to hire an orchestra, but now composers could grab a Moog or a Prophet and compose a score all by themselves. Howard Shore captured a terrifying and appropriate voice in the score for David Cronenberg's Videodrome. He blended conventional string orchestra with programmed digital samples using a Synclavier 2 synthesizer. He recorded them both in tandem and mixed to obscure. This technique reflects the main character of the film as well, struggling with reality versus his skewed perception. But a few years before that, a blend of a synth theme and organic repurposed music was used by Stanley Kubrick in a film that decades later still haunts us. One of the only original pieces of music that was used in The Shining was the main title sequence, and that was a synthesized adaptation by Wendy Carlos of Hector Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. Pretty much the rest of the music was repurposed, which is a technique that Kubrick used many times in his films. It feels like it was written for the movie, directly reflecting Wendy's anxiety. As she flips through the pages, the intensity of the strings enhances and becomes more anxious. But some horror films repurposed music in a different way, to create a sense of irony or misplacement of some kind. This sense of juxtaposition has also been used with original music.
2 Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, then lock your
In the 90s, the horror genre returned with big blockbuster movies that spawned into successful franchises. Wes Craven's Scream somewhat returned to form with a Hollywood score. A big part of these soundtracks was the song score. Summer hits give us a sense of comfort and freedom, right up until the kill. They also probably help to sell soundtracks. But then as we crossed into the millennium, composers started to think of new ways to scare. Like in the case of 28 Days Later, a melodic composition using instruments we are used to achieves a good anxious discomfort. But in some cases, a lack of score gets the scare, and sound design plays the role that the score used to play. In the modern era, LFE, or low-frequency effects, often take the place of a fuller-sounding scare. Let's take a look at two similar scenes from two different eras and listen for the different musical approaches. Rosemary's Baby, 1968, a walk down a hallway. Approaching a door, this is scored fairly heavily, rhythmically, and in tempo with the character's walking pace. Now let's look at this more modern clip from Insidious. Joseph Bishara drives home an effective sense of dread only by creating an atmosphere around the character's movement.
There was something in there with him. It was standing there in the corner.
There's another trend in the modern era as well. It's filled with homage. It's synth-heavy, and it exposes its love for 80s horror. The score for It Follows, composed by Disasterpiece, is determined and borderline bombastic in some places, but also plays on a sense of nostalgia and has these melancholic colors within it. I think this technique scares us because it disrupts the familiar. It purposefully cradles a comfort zone of our youth, which makes us feel vulnerable. This is an example of wonderful storytelling through the score. Thus far, horror music has frightened us in many ways. It has been loud and quiet, glaring and subtle, dense and delicate. Yet every approach has chained us to a sense of dread. What will scare us next?
Oh, they had a little jump scare there at the end.
Yep. They got to make sure you're paying attention. Wake you
It
up.
made me jump so much I flipped.
Now you're over there. That's good.
What did he mention there? LFE?
Low frequency effects, yeah. Basically
That's
like the low B on my bass. Some things that don't come through during a normal speaker, and it can be things below 30 hertz. Like my low B is down around 30 and a half hertz. So anything that's under that, it's stuff that you can hear still for those first couple notes, but it gets down to where you're feeling it more than hearing a note at that point, where it's more that vibration, that
well,
that
and it
low rumble.
it does effectively set that kind of mood
Mhm.
that when you start hearing weird sounds on top of it, very effective. I need to incorporate that more with the movie I'm working on,
Yeah.
getting that kind of ambient creep coming in.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take their advice there.
And try different instruments down in that low end too. Like something like a horn, like a trombone, maybe like way down like that could be one thing. Whereas strings would be something else, and a piano would be something else. So they'll all have a different flavor to them. But when you get really low on the frequencies there, you'll start to just feel it more than hear it if you're listening through good speakers.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of looking at the history like this. You see how like it went from orchestral approaches going into the 70s. The synth and John Carpenter definitely helped to popularize it in the horror side. Started to change the dynamics of the tension and the mood in the horror movies.
Yep. And that's the thing, like you were saying, there's a lot of good examples there and a lot of different ways of achieving creep with, different methods.
Yeah, it's interesting to think what Psycho would have been like if Hitchcock had decided to not use the score, I don't think it would have had the same impact. I don't think it would have become the legendary clip that it became.
There was one movie, I can't remember exactly which one it was. It was a horror movie that was originally black and white, and they colorized it. And in the black and white version, like there's one character who's just very pale and imposing and this and that. And in the colorized version, they made him like rosy and like almost almost joyful. It's like it
Almost
doesn't
sounds
quite
like
fit.
Evil Dead. Are you talking about
No, no,
between
this
the
this would have been
original
like
Evil Dead and the
this would have been like something more along the lines of a Hitchcock or something, but old. Like I want to say like not Dial M for Murder because that was one that I think was a 3D adaptation, but whatever it was, there was one. It was black and white, and when they colorized it, it completely changed the tone. Was the idea like the
oh,
music
and
can change the tone, but when they colorized it, it just changed the mood of the scene completely.
yeah, 3D was another niche in horror movies that
Mhm.
back in the 80s, I actually went to a couple of movies, horror movies, Jaws 3D and
Nice.
House of Wax, which actually had some good 3D. I was dodging arrows
I was
as I
gonna
was
say
watching
you're talking
it.
about jump scares. Having a jump scare in 3D, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a shame they could never get 3D to really catch on back then.
Mhm.
They had some good ideas.
Yeah, there's actually remind me later. There's a science thing we got to look at because it was a video I was watching about using light that has a certain chirality, a certain spin to it, where it's similar to the way they if you send light, the same kind that you would use for the 3D glasses that you'd use in a theater or for a TV. If you use those glasses and look at these certain things, it's a bright color in the one eye and it's completely black in the other. And if you look at it with a mirror, it's the other way around. So it's just pretty neat that you get, this effect where the color is completely there on the one side and completely gone on the other, just from the way you're looking at it, whether it's reflected or not.
You know what I'm looking forward to when if they start to merge augmented reality and
Yep.
headsets
Yep.
with the movie experience. That's gonna be the kind of 3D experience nowadays that might live up to the hype
Oh yeah,
and
it's
the
coming.
extra price tag.
It's coming for sure.
That was an awesome look back at Reverb over on
Mhm.
YouTube. Uh, like I said, when it comes to looking for equipment and the community there, great place to check on
Mhm.
deals, reviews, knowledge. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was a great one for our start of our Halloween night.
Yeah. Where are we off
And
to next?
our next one is coming from a Freshie channel. Where is it?
What it?
Yeah, I've got the channels actually on a different browser because YouTube decided to change the way that they do their views now, so I can't see the channel information anymore.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, so this one's coming from at Sideways 440.
Mhm.
And this is kind of a question about like how sound can cause fear.
Mhm.
My initial question when I started searching for stuff for tonight, that's pretty much what I asked YouTube and
Mhm.
found this Freshie here.
Yeah, yeah. It's got some good ways right there. Like even
Yeah,
just the falling, having something, that can get you spooky. It can get you a sense of things slowing down. It can be all kinds of different effects that you can get from that.
yeah, and that's why I wanted to include this one because it actually looks into the emotions that trigger
Mhm.
the fears that we get when we hear the right sounds.
And the mechanics of how to make it happen.
Yeah, and getting the right sounds to feel those emotions like falling,
Mhm.
very tricky things you can do to give people the feeling of falling.
Sure.
Let's get emotional.
All right.
Why are ominous soundscapes and sound effects so unsettling? What is dissonance, and how does it help build an atmosphere of fear and ambiguity? In today's video, we're going to have a look at how sound can create fear when used under the right conditions. The idea that we can craft audio in a way that evokes such a strong feeling as fear is fascinating, but it's also super creepy. Before we dive into how sound can make things spooky, let's have a quick look at what we as humans find particularly scary. Then, we can see how sound can trigger this fear. As humans, we have these things called innate fears. To put it simply, these are fears that are etched into our DNA through years of experience and evolution. The main innate fears are falling, incapacitation, disease, the unknown or the abnormal, sudden movement, isolation, pain, and suffocation. Not everyone is susceptible to these fears, but a lot of people share them. The reason we've developed them is because they all have the potential to result in death. Sound can cause fear by using certain techniques that link to our innate fears. In this case, our fear of the unknown and ambiguity. Dissonance. A lack of harmony among musical notes, the type of sound that makes your teeth clench and your hairs stick up on the back of your neck. Dissonance is a major psychological and sonic technique that can be unsettling for a lot of us because it appeals to our innate fear of the unknown. Sideways did a video on how to make music scary. I'll link his channel down below so you can go have a look later. But basically, he touches on this idea of sound affecting innate fears. To put it simply, he talks about how we are all programmed to recognize that large things make low sounds and small things make high sounds. Therefore, potential predators like lions, with their low growls, are seen as dangerous, while we see cats as adorable and having no threat at all with their high-pitched meows. This is all relevant because many films will use this idea of low equals scary and high equals cute to their advantage. An example might be including a lullaby over a tense scene. This creates a cognitive dissonance in the viewer. An ambiguity has been created between something that would typically calm us down, that being the lullaby, and a tense situation, that being a psychopath on a rampage. Our fear of not knowing what will happen next is heightened by this dissonance. Not knowing what something is scary to us because we have no idea of its threat or how to deal with it. Not knowing what to expect is horrifying, being unprepared is stressful, and seeing something of an unrecognizable shape strikes us as strange and we assume it's threatening. As the human race, we have thought all of these things from the beginning. Being scared of anything we weren't familiar with in the Stone Age was one of the instincts that would have kept us alive. That is why when we hear a low and high sound together in a tense build-up, we are filled with an uneasy anticipation. We aren't sure whether or not it's a dangerous or harmless sound. It's also why people experiencing this tense scene would be prone to a jump scare. They're so ready for any danger and full of anticipation that any sudden change to what they're hearing would startle them. When it comes to what causes us more fear, audio is significantly scarier to most people than visual. The reason for this is because when we see something scary, we know where it is and we can also somewhat anticipate the danger by observing and making assumptions. But when it comes to sound, if we hear a twig snap in the dark and an unfamiliar noise, we can't see the danger, we are completely vulnerable, and that's when something would attack.
Oh, there was some strategic stabs in there.
Gotta have the stats.
Yeah. And I always thought innate fears were the fear of being eaten.
That's in there. If you hear that low growl, you better be sure you're not getting eaten. You don't want to be on the menu.
The big point was it leads to death. And all those innate fears, the sum of all fears is the fear of death.
Nobody likes to die. That's true.
or that ambiguity, that
Uncertainty, sure.
fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And that's the thing is certain people fear, things more than others. Like, me, I'm open to the unknown, but I'm not fearful of the unknown. Like bring on the unknown and we'll apply what I know about science to the unknown and we'll see what I can come up with about, that particular set of events or observations.
Yeah, and fears like those, they affect people differently at different ages in your life. I don't get scared now the way I got scared as a kid.
Mhm. So even looking
You
at
know,
certain things like spiders, for example, I mean, in a realistic sense, if you look at the physical size of a spider and the mass that's involved there, and the physical size of you and the mass there, it's like, well, what is this little thing going to do to me? And sure, there are some dangerous spiders, but the chance of finding a spider that could actually kill you and or cause serious problems to you are very low. But a lot of people
yeah,
freak out if there's a spider like 40 feet away from them in the house in the corner and they see it crawling. They're like, ah! And it's like,
yeah. Whether it
relax.
can kill me or not, it still creeps me out.
See, I'm the kind of person who I would sooner, if I was going to do anything about it, I would like, get it onto a piece of paper and get it outside or something rather than just go smush it because there's no reason to smush it. And spiders in particular, they eat other insects usually is what
I
they'll do.
have found them to be useful with the other bugs that we deal with up here in Maine. The
Yeah.
spiders actually help.
Exactly. So I mean,
Hey, Matt.
if they stay away, and they're not particularly problematic, then they're fine.
Yeah.
They can stay.
If they have a soundtrack to them.
Now, if they come in and start using E and F, then we got problems.
That spider stealing a shark song.
When they start coming in like that, then you got trouble.
Yeah. So that was a good look at those innate emotions that lead to fears at Sideways 440 over on YouTube. And for our next one, we're going to ask that question about the jump scare because we're going to hear it mentioned. We've heard it mentioned a few times now. And was this Adeline? At Adeline 6418 over on YouTube. And they're going to talk about the use of a jump scare and where, how, when, how much you should use it. I mean, a horror movie that's just all jump scare will eventually overload the viewer.
You want to build to it. You want to have the jump scare, and then you're going to have what the consequence after.
Well, let's see what the consequence is.
Dun, dun.
How to make music sound scary. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty.
All right.
Okay, so like most things with music, there's a cheap and easy way to do this, or we can take our time and do it right. Now, looking at the title, you're probably thinking to yourself, why don't you just have a jump scare? Just have it go from absolute silence to a really loud sound and scare somebody. There's a couple things that suck about that. So first, if you're really interested in like the neurology behind a jump scare, or as they call it, the startle response, then check out this other video I made about how to like control somebody's mind with music. But as far as like the compositional efficacy of a jump scare, like 99% of the time, they're just gonna suck. Film critics are always talking about how cheap jump scares feel in these horror films, and most of the time they are really cheap. The only way you could really make a jump scare work is if you've actually earned it. See, you have to set up a suspenseful scene that then leads into a jump scare. And the same thing goes for music. You can't just go from absolute silence to a loud sound and call it a day. It's actually a really common mistake that a lot of beginner composers make. They try to create these really huge moments without actually building up to them. Or as filmmakers would put it, there's a payoff without a setup. So you have to have the music move from point A to point B. Now there are times when the absence of music is really effective, but in a suspenseful scene where you're really trying to earn your jump scare, you want the music to participate. So here's a really great example from Jaws. Now the music is including a couple motifs from the main theme, and Hooper ends up finding a shark tooth, so you're pretty much expecting a shark to show up out of nowhere, and then bam, floating human head with a big orchestral hit. Easily one of the best examples of the music working with a suspenseful scene to really earn that jump scare. But that's jump scares, and people have been doing that for hundreds of years, even in music. Seriously. Back in 1791, Joseph Haydn wrote Symphony No. 94, which has since been nicknamed the Surprise Symphony. Go check it out, but keep your volume low. And there's another way that composers make music scary, or at the very least, like, creepy. So it's basically done by creating a contrast between what your audience is seeing and hearing. And now this is a big point behind my Pixar video, and more or less the points stay the same. So in short, this is something I like to call creepy baby music. And you see it everywhere. A good example is like Five Nights at Freddy's, when you run out of battery and you hear that music box right before you die. Lullabies, or at least music that's played on instruments that also tend to play lullabies, is generally supposed to be a comforting experience. This is the kind of music you play to put a baby to sleep, not like go lift weights or participate in an MMA fight. So when it plays over something that's succinctly frightening, you leave the audience with cognitive dissonance. The audience is seeing something scary while listening to something that's supposed to be comforting. And that confusion really adds to the scene. And you can actually flip this technique around for comedic effect. If you take a scene with no suspense whatsoever and treat the music as dramatically as possible, you can add weight to a scene that isn't necessarily meant to be taken seriously. Just think of Kronk singing to himself in The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, he's doing his own theme music?
But that's all the kiddie stuff. How can you really incite visceral horror into your audience using just music, even without a visual element? Now, for those of you familiar with my channel, you've probably heard this before, and you're gonna hear it again. Large things make low sounds, small things make high sounds. Kittens make cute high-pitched sounds, lions have terrifying roars. And all humans are programmed to recognize this phenomenon and associate low sounds with large things and high sounds with small things. Not only because that's just how the universe works, but because all the potential predators, the things that can eat you, are gonna be bigger than you. So low sounds tend to come from things that are potentially dangerous, and the high sounds tend to come from things that aren't. Moreover, while the low sounds can feel like they're coming from something big and intimidating like a predator, the high sounds can actually end up feeling comforting. See, that's why those lullabies tend to have those really high instruments like celesta and xylophone, and you don't really hear lullabies being played in tuba. So, what if we could send a signal to our brains that communicates the possibility of a threat, no matter how small, and then confuse that signal by playing something that's supposed to be comforting? You could basically emulate that creepy baby music effect through the music alone. So the way you want to do this is you want to play a really high sound and a really low sound at the same time and nothing else. By leaving the middle blank, the listener's mind will begin focusing incredibly hard on filling in that gap, while at the same time flailing around between trying to identify the potential threat in the viscerally intimidating low sound, and trying to understand the presence of the relatively innocuous high sounds. The main theme from Nightmare on Elm Street kinda did this. Like, they have the framework in there, but they ended up filling the gap with like melodies and harmonies, all kinds of crap, probably just to make the theme more memorable. Now, it doesn't matter who you are or how tough you are. We're triggering the primal "something is not okay" response, as if you were sitting around a campfire and you suddenly couldn't hear the crickets anymore. You see, in many cases, being able to hear the crickets at night means that there isn't something bigger and badder hanging outside the campgrounds. Because when you're in the woods, you're going to hear the danger before you see it.
I really expected him to put up a little psh right at the end.
The really low sounds from things that can eat you.
He kept his word, and yes, the fear of things that eat you is an innate fear.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we have been at the top of the food chain. You know, I mean, there are things around that can eat you for sure, but in your day-to-day life, you encountering things that are going to eat you, pretty low percent chance. So like we go through our lives without a constant threat of being eaten. So we don't really feel that visceral, fear that we would feel if there were T-Rexes walking around daily.
Well, I do live around like bears and things that
Yeah.
could eat me.
Now, bears are an interesting one because they could eat you, but they're more likely to be as afraid of you as you are of them. Like if you were to encounter bears in parks, like their usual advice from like a ranger there would be, if you're going to come around a corner and it's a blind corner and you can't see if there's anything there or not, you just say hello bear, like hello bear, before you go around the corner, because you're kind of announcing yourself in a way, and you're not going to startle them, because if you scare them,
So
then you might have a problem.
I don't want to use that jump scare on a bear.
No, but I mean, especially if you both scare each other, because now you're going to freak, and your freak response probably will make them freak even worse. But if you just say hello bear before you come around the corner, you'll probably hear them run off before you even saw them. But if it was something where you saw them, you just get big and scary and loud, and they will probably back off and go away.
Yeah, if that bear doesn't shit in the woods, I will.
You might do it together right there and have a moment, you know? And be like, you don't tell anybody, I don't tell anybody. All right, we're out of here.
Well, that's the part in the music where it sounds like calming and perfect for a jump scare afterwards.
Yes, so there are ways to, accommodate or to achieve the jump scare.
Yeah,
Doesn't
well,
always have to
and
be a bear.
he did bring up some good points about like the high-low approach, something that we're hearing, and the cognitive dissonance, the importance of it, building up to it. I think that's what I found the most useful in his advice is
Yes.
you've got to set
You gotta
the
earn it.
stage for that jump scare. Otherwise, if you just do a jump scare without preparing for it, it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah, it's just jarring and kind of out of place.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
depends what comes before and after, of course, but yeah.
people don't necessarily want to be jarred when they're watching the horror movies.
I mean, it depends. There are different types of horror for sure. Psychological horror versus the slapstick horror, perhaps.
Yeah, or like the modern ones where it's squeamish horror. It's like, oh my God, Saw. It's so gross.
Yep.
That was at Adeline6418 over on YouTube. And again, I like what they're bringing in here for different perspectives. We are seeing a theme here with the cognitive dissonance, the jump scare, like kind of hard to ignore in making the scary movies. And this is a nice summation of all these elements, along with some of the techniques that you can use to get those jump scares.
Yeah, one of the scarier intervals is just the tritone. So just doing the C and the F sharp. If you just play it together, that sounds spooky. Or going back and forth, it has that whole confusion kind of sound to it.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you're hearing those high notes, strings work really great with it when they're all tense and going fast. The xylophones and what was the other one? The Celeste. That's another one that when you do it right, gets super creepy. It sounds like a music box or something a kid would be listening to, a baby. And that whole baby scaring approach works great on adults.
Oh yeah. And even melodica, like that little keyboard, it's like an octave and a half, and you power it by just blowing through it. So it's kind of a wind instrument, but it's powered, it's powered by your breath, but then you're getting the intensity is like a volume pedal. The harder you blow through it, the louder it gets. So it's a way of being able to play an expressive, solo on a very small instrument that requires nothing else.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten a theremin yet.
I'd love to play a theremin. Yeah, that'd be cool.
This one's going to be coming from Damien Gauchi, at Damo_Gauchi, Gauci. He's breaking down the music behind your favorite films, shows, and games. No music degree required. Awesome.
Right.
I like channels like this. And he's gonna, kind of talk more about how to make the scary music. We've talked about techniques and things like that, but now we're going to get into actually putting it together.
All right.
Hello. Something I've always wondered is, what makes music scary? Is it the high-pitched drones, or the low rumble of something unknown? Is it the unsettling sounds, or the eerie harmonies that create tension? Or is it the absence of sound? Silence. Sorry if I scared you. I won't do that again, I promise. But seriously, how do composers write scary music that actually makes us feel scared? To answer that, let's have a look at a scene from Jaws with the original music and then some different music. And this is the exact same scene with some less scary music. Rather than being completely ridiculous, I think there's an important lesson to be learnt here. Music can turn a scene from something that's kind of scary into something that makes it hard to sleep at night. So let's have a look at some different films and understand how they use things like silence and jump scares, harmony and dissonance, and instrumentation. So starting out with the most obvious way to make music sound scary, having a tense and quiet scene followed by loud noise is one way to make you jump. But you can't just add these in your film willy-nilly. I mean, you can, but they're pretty cheesy unless there's a purposeful build-up to the jump scare. Like that. Let's take a look at a scene from Jaws where Hooper finds Ben Gardner's boat. From when Hooper jumps off the boat into the water, there's nearly a full minute of tension being built by the film and the music before it is released with the jump scare. While there isn't complete silence before the jump scare, the music creates an unsettling soundscape. Then the jump scare completely contrasts that. The sudden spike in volume, the change in texture and rhythm, as well as the scream all contribute to making a successful jump scare. Another example is from Alien where Dallas is killed. Once again, there is more than a minute of build-up before the actual jump scare, which is necessary to build tension. A common addition to build tension is by using a constant rhythm such as a heartbeat. In this case, it's the beeping rhythm that continues right up until he dies. Similar to the Jaws scene, there is a spike in volume and a scream. The use of a high-pitched noise which is similar to a scream also makes us jump. Jump scares have been around for hundreds of years, but they can be pretty cheap if they're not done properly. But the surprise is created in music with a sudden change in volume, a scream or something similar, and a noise that is dissonant, which leads us on to the next way to make music scary. Harmony and dissonance play a big factor as well in creating music that sounds scary. Just have a listen to this chord, and then this chord. You can definitely hear that the second chord sounded a lot scarier than the first chord, but why is that? It's partly got to do with the frequencies of the notes and how well they go together. So in the first chord, they do go well together, but in the second chord, the scary chord, they don't. Dissonance is used a lot in horror and thriller movies to create tension, so let's have a look at some examples. One of the most recognizable themes that uses dissonance is the Jaws theme. It's extremely simple but very effective. The two notes are a half step away from each other, and when played together, they don't agree with each other at all. The tension created by this dissonance is further enhanced by the accelerating rhythm, which reflects a heartbeat accelerating when you get scared or nervous. Another example of dissonance is the main theme from Halloween. This theme is once again quite simple, but goes about dissonance in a different way than the Jaws theme. The notes it uses are dissonant by themselves, and the chord changes throughout the piece move to chords that aren't closely related, which is not what we expect, creating that surprise factor. While dissonance is quite a big factor to create tension and scariness, there's something else that we need to have a look at. One thing you might have noticed with scary music is that it's eerily high or uncomfortably low, and there's a reason for that. Most music and sounds we hear is around the middle register, not too high or not too low. It's rare for music or sounds to be heard at the extreme highs and lows. So using those really high and low registers to create tension is a really great tool, as they're not something we hear every day. And when you combine that with using uncomfortable textures, then you get something that sounds really scary. Instrumentation is obviously a really big factor in creating scary music. High-pitched strings, low rumbles, and distorted electronic sounds are all common sounds we hear in the horror and thriller genre. There was even an instrument created specifically to create unpleasant sounds, the apprehension engine. Composer Mark Corvin commissioned his guitar maker friend Tony Duggan Smith to create a spooky instrument that makes some pretty terrifying sounds. I'll put the link in the description to watch the video if you want. Most of these sounds are made by bowing metal and strings, bending things and hitting things as well, all while being soaked in some very long reverb. All the sounds are quite unnatural and use the higher and lower register more than anything, which enhances the scary nature of the sounds. Stranger Things is known for its 80s inspired soundtrack using synthesizers as the backbone of the music. The options are practically limitless when it comes to synthesizers. You can make a sound as scary as you want. One track in particular that has some very grotesque sounds is Something in the Wall from season 1. Right from the get-go, this track uses a very low register to its advantage, and the synthesizer sounds are manipulated in such a way to sound like a monster or some large creature. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. And next time you watch a scary movie or hear some scary music, listen out for silence, dissonance, or unnatural sounds, as there might be a jump scare right around the corner.
Oh, son of a bitch, he did it at the end.
You knew someone was going to get you, right?
I should have suspected Damien there.
Yeah,
Very sneaky.
but they got you nonetheless.
Yeah, and I am gonna check out that apprehension engine. Dude, that is a cool instrument.
Absolutely. It also looks like, if you had, some strings around the house and a workbench and a bunch of random metal doodads, you could kind of make the same kind of thing. Low strings, high strings, get those low bass strings, get some high piano strings,
Yeah, I
guitar
could
strings.
build it.
I could build it.
Oh, and it's funny to see an example of Jaws with the like comedic music. It
Yeah,
totally different, totally different movie.
for sure, for sure. And that's one of those where even just turning the sound off can really change a scene. Like I do that sometimes. Like if I'm listening to music while I'm watching something and the music conflicts, I might just mute the show or whatever and just have other music going in the background. And with a totally different soundtrack, it does change the entire meaning.
Well, and at the start of his video, he was kind of emphasizing the importance of silence
Yeah.
sometimes. The moments of silence in horror movies are kind of what lead to those jump scares when you're just like, what's in the box? What's in the box?
Oh yeah, and when you get that silence, you're leaning in closer now because you're trying to, what happened? Like, did something go wrong? It went silent, and then they blast you with the jump scare.
Yes. Again, we're hearing those themes of the high-low approach, the cognitive dissonance. None of them have ignored jump scares. They all have different opinions on the usefulness of them and where.
And in the dissonance, the most dissonant intervals, or the ones that sound the most dissonant. Unless we talked about the
Seconds, ninths.
the flat second, the flat second where it's the note right next door. It's a C and a C sharp. They just don't sound good together. The same with that tritone. They mentioned that one as well, but those are the two that sound the creepiest of all of the intervals. And then the other three black notes that you wouldn't normally have in the scale, they don't sound that bad, that dissonant. That's the flat 3, the flat 6, and the flat 7. Those sound less dissonant than the other ones.
Could just as much be the sounds of war as the sounds of horror.
Yep. But even notes that are in the scale, like we were saying, the E and the F next to each other, right, for the Jaws theme, they don't really play them together in the theme, but they are so close together that the sound does.
Well, yeah, I think the beauty with Jaws is that like each note you get to kind of appreciate separately and get that feeling of tension because they're so close.
Yep. One thing that's kind of neat, it's not part of this, but it's something is binaural beats where you have a different sound in each ear. Like if you played a C in one ear and a C sharp in the other ear, your brain would kind of make
It would eventually
a third
tune
tone.
it. Yeah.
You would feel a pulse basically based on how far apart the notes are. And if it was a C and a C sharp, it would be one thing. If it was a C and a D sharp, it would be something else. That kind of thing.
Yeah. What I really liked with this one was his observation on utilizing like that constant tone, that kind of like heartbeat tone, is a good way to like get people ready for the jump scare, and the noticing the level changes. He put some emphasis on that, and that's kind of important sometimes with the horror movie music is it goes from this quiet, gentle volume to that stabbing moment.
Yep. The intensity changes. Yeah. They can shift very rapidly.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the horror music making is sound engineering and mixing like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And sound effects more than the music itself, even sometimes.
Yeah.
Whether it's screaming or the sound of a creaking door or whatever, a lot of that can add to it. Or the silence instead of the crickets. Like you're hearing the crickets and all of a sudden it goes definitely silent and they turn around. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah, and the cricket sound can be relaxing or scary as depends on the moment.
When they all go quiet, like what do they know that I don't know?
Yeah, that would be scary if all of a sudden they just what's out there.
Yeah.
Excellent job, Damien. At Damo _ Gauci, Gauci. He breaks down the music in favorite films. I like this. Plus, he's a pianist, so I will be back when we have a piano night.
For sure.
And someone we do go back to, especially on Halloween. It is a tradition that Jake gets in on every Halloween because he's got some of the best when it comes to the theory behind music and with the horror music. He's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve here.
Absolutely. And a lot of it does come down to using the modes properly, but also, just certain intervals, like we were saying, sound spooky, and all of the things that we talked about, the instrumentation, the speed of whatever you're doing, like everything can be manipulated to make it more spooky.
Yeah, and he's really good at like showing you the chords that do that, the claws, the technique, which scales to play with.
Exactly.
At Signals Music Studio, another one that like one of the very first sites that we went to look at when we first started.
Yeah, a great resource. All kinds of stuff on there.
He's not Jake from Steak Farm.
No.
No, he's Jake from Signals Music Studio.
I hear the rain starting over here.
It's a
starting
sign.
to kick in. No thunder yet, though.
Then it's not spooky.
Not yet. It's getting there.
All right, come on, Jake. Bring on the thunder.
'Tis the season to be spooky. We all know that music has the ability to creep us out and make us feel uncomfortable, but many people underestimate how powerful music really is in making us feel creeped out during our favorite Halloween movies. Scary movies and videos rely so heavily on scary music that without music, it can completely dispel the creepy vibe altogether. Just like watching The Big Bang Theory with no laugh track reveals the fact that it's completely soulless and has no humor at all.
Boy, do I have to urinate.
Music composers will use specific tricks to achieve this skin-crawling feel that we often hear. And in this video, we're going to look at 6 popular and surprisingly simple examples that you could try on your own. Our first method of spook, that is MOS, is to use minor seconds. That is, notes that are right next to each other. For example, on a piano, the tones E and F together form a minor second interval. And this sound of notes being played a minor second apart creates a very dissonant and alarming tone, something that can't really be heard without feeling uneasy. Minor seconds in the lower register create these cloudy fogs of bass, giving rise to the effect that something evil is lurking. The most famous and oft-cited example of a minor second being used in theatrical film score is from the movie Jaws. Next up is pitch bends, that is to take a note and slide it slowly up or down from its root note. Pitch bending down on a brass instrument or a series of strings can create the feeling of loss and despair, almost as if something dangerous or unexpected has just happened. We hear this effect at the end of nearly every episode of Lost, with trombones pitch bending down, leaving us with a musical and narrative cliffhanger. Pitch bending up, however, creates a slightly different effect of rising tension, as if something bad is about to happen. In film, this can precede a climactic moment. Now, if we have 2 instruments sustaining the same note and one begins to pitch bend up or down away from that note, The two notes grow slowly out of tune, eventually forming a minor second, but then going even further into obscurity to a different realm of out-of-tuneness. Something like this could be drawn out over time to create a long sequence of suspense, or done quickly to create a stinger effect. Third, we have unrelated minor chords. I think this is one of the easiest ways to write creepy melodies and chord changes, is to take minor chords that aren't associated with one another in a certain key and just string them together. Now, if you don't know if the chords are in a key or not, that's fine. You can literally just take random minor chords, put them back to back, and hear what happens as you play melodies on top. By singing and highlighting the notes of each of these random minor chords, you get very haunting and meandering melodies such as this. This is similar to the effect we hear in the Halloween theme song, with minor chords modulating downward with no relationship to each other. Next up is diminished chords. The diminished seventh chord all on its own is just a cluster of minor third intervals stacked on top of each other. All on its own, it sounds pretty demented. But by taking diminished chords and playing them in higher and higher inversions, we can create a feeling as if we're rising towards some strange, ominous place. Another technique to keep your viewers on edge is to never musically resolve. In music, the idea of resolution refers to a feeling of completeness. For example, if I play a harmonic minor scale all the way through, by the time I get to the seventh note, your ear will automatically pull for the first note. Once we get there, we've achieved resolution, this sense of satisfaction that we've arrived where we need to be. Now, composers could subvert your subconscious by intentionally leaving phrases unresolved and taking you to places that you didn't necessarily expect. So as your ear pines for a specific note or chord, you instead get delivered something that leaves you without a sense of peace. And last but not least, a great way to sound creepy is to use creepy sounding instruments. Now this might sound basic, but we're sort of pre-programmed to accept certain instruments as creepy and spooky. Theremins have been used in sci-fi and horror films since their invention, and the sound instantly reminds us of the paranormal and extraterrestrial. Plucked violins can give us the sound that something dangerous is creeping around, like a batch of spiders hanging around in every corner of a cave. Now, you might not be a musician or a composer yourself, but like with most things in art, a lot of this is intuitive. If you have a PC mic and free software like Audacity, you can record yourself moaning into the microphone and adding a lot of reverb. Then maybe try and take some sounds and reverse them, like the sounds of wind chimes or clinking coins. And then lastly, maybe add some whispers on top and see what you get.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please subscribe.
You get spooky sounds.
Yes, I agree with Richard Noggins. That is awesome.
Absolutely. Many different ways. And again, covered a lot of different things that we covered, but in a better way, like getting it all packed together in one spot.
Well, again, he gives me so many ideas that I want to go try. That the sliding technique, hadn't even thought of that, but that is super creepy if you can slide one pitch like that. Works really good.
Oh, yeah. And in long term. And the other one is just holding. So it is just staying where it is. And you're feeling it pull further away.
Yeah.
And you can also do it with the volume. You can have the volume rise or fall on the one that's moving.
Yeah. What you're actually sliding. I mean, between the pitch and the volume, you can get all sorts of freaky.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your theremin. Leave it to Jake to bring up the theremin. It does sound creepy.
Right. And some example of somebody playing a theremin, which is great.
Yes. I kind of have a theremin with that V-beam that I haven't. Like, I really need to implement it with a theremin sound.
Yeah, you gotta test it for sure.
Yeah, and we also got some chord tips there. The diminished chords, the ones that he was talking about there.
Yep. That one is just the C, E flat, G flat, and A.
Yeah, and he reminded me that resolution is less important when you're actually doing it for the purpose of scaring. It's not like we're not making a pop song for the radio here.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of songs they do pull for that one, even like the common jazz turnaround, the 2-5-1, you're going from a minor two to a five to a one, all that you could do that same thing and just go from the two to the five and not go to the one. That five wants to pull to the one, and by not going there, you're not
A-
delivering. You're just
and
leaving it in the air.
that listener feels like it wants you to go to that, but if you do it strategically and you get that listener to cooperate with the lack of resolution, you can really write some cool shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Jake,
Hmm.
awesome to have you on Halloween. It
Always.
really is a tradition for us.
Absolutely.
At Signals Music Studio.
All right.
And our other tradition, I
Hmm.
think she's been here on every Halloween too,
I think
because
so.
between like emotional research that she does with music and how emotions and music relate to make this composer or that composer, and
Mhm.
you can actually sculpt the song you're doing based on an emotion or a composer's style.
Mhm.
Nari Soul is an incredible teacher on the internet. She's on like 3 different YouTube channels that, we go to,
Yep.
and, I mean, I love her original channel. That's the first one you threw at me, and
Mhm.
then as we were going along, depending on the nights and the themes we had, turns out she is all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. And with good reason. Well presented videos.
Yeah, and in this case, these are the ones she does with PBS, and they really are super educational. The kids should be soaking up this public resource. This one's at Soundfield PBS, one that we went to on one of our theory nights,
Mhm. Nice.
and the video that she's going to be doing is on how composers make music sound scary. A big summation of like the things we've seen throughout the night,
Mhm.
but just like Jake, goes the extra mile.
Yep. And again, it's in the presentation, different things would stick from different videos that you watch. So it's good to see different presentations, even if some of it is the same information, it covers different ground as well.
Yeah, yeah. And she's got a partner in this one. They're going to be coming up with a little horror project.
Nice.
Horror films don't get much respect, but while horror has often been dismissed as lowbrow, its music has been anything but.
Listen to the score from the 2018 horror thriller Bird Box. Now check this out. Hear the similarities? This experimental composition was a key part of The Exorcist, a film that changed horror music forever. But what is that sound, and how did it come to influence the horror films of today?
Nare and I are going to compose a score for an original scary short. But first, let's take a look back at how scary music has evolved from the silent era to The Exorcist to today.
Since there's been film, there's been horror. In the silent era, most films would either have no music, or they would be accompanied by live musicians who would play popular or classical tunes. Only a handful of silent horror films were accompanied by original scores. The music written for the 1920 release of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was described by one theater runner as eligible for citizenship in a nightmare country. The first time a thematic musical score was written for a feature-length American talkie was for the 1933 monster movie King Kong. Written by composer Max Steiner, this score utilized techniques that would go on to be used in horror films for decades, such as Mickey Mousing, in which music matches a character's action, and leitmotifs, which are short, recurring musical ideas that typically signify the presence of a monster or a villain. It's a technique John Williams would later use in what's likely one of the most memorable film scores of all time. This two-note leitmotif is perfect not only for its menacing simplicity, but also for its functionality. The quicker it gets, the closer we know the shark is.
During Hollywood's golden age, horror films and the scores written for them often lacked subtlety. The music usually told the audience what to fear.
50s was so big, giant ants and these aliens from outer space, where 60s, Psycho kicked it off. It was personal. It's a lot of interpersonal drama. Bernard Herrmann's score in that is iconic.
Psycho's shower scene is one of the earliest examples of a jump scare, and it's one of the most famous examples of a stinger chord, a common horror music technique where musicians sharply attack a chord to reinforce the moment of surprise. Hitchcock originally wanted the shower scene to be silent, but composer Bernard Herrmann decided to write a piece featuring violins playing a shrieking upward glissando, which is produced when a violinist glides their fingers up or down the strings as they play. Hitchcock later said that 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music.
I watch a lot of superhero movies. Sure, the Avengers score is cool, but I'm not going to think of the Avengers score when I'm like kicking butt. But when I'm scared alone at night, I think of that horror movie score.
One reason stinger chords so effectively heighten terror in horror films is that they manipulate the deep-rooted fear centers in our brains.
What makes something scary? Experimental work has shown is that screams that are fear-based screams, they're known to have a very particular kind of acoustic signature. It's called roughness, and that gives it the kind of scraggly, fluttery vibe. Whether they're vocalized sounds or alarm sounds or other sounds, it's the ones that have increased roughness feature. And that's what you interpret as a listener as fearful. It could be a guitar string, it could be a piano sound, it could be anything.
Now let's fast forward to the film that changed horror music forever, The Exorcist. William Friedkin's 1973 classic was so terrifying that it caused audience members to faint, vomit, and protest its release. Some people even thought the film itself was possessed. That's partly because of its unforgettable soundtrack, which included disturbing experimental compositions that went on to shape the way horror scores and soundtracks sound, even to this day. That's the sound of Krzysztof Penderecki, the leader of the Polish school of avant-garde composers in the 1950s and 60s. To get this haunting sound, Penderecki used tools like sound masses and tone clusters.
Penderecki's score, I don't know, it sounds classic. I love a song that I don't know when it was composed. I didn't know if Penderecki was from the 1700s or now, and I love that it has this timeless sound to it. It's timelessly scary as well.
So to create a tone cluster, you can basically take a number of pitches that are a semitone apart. For example, F sharp, G, G sharp. These are all tone clusters. With sound mass, the focus is more on the effect as a whole, where we have a clump of pitches where the specificity of each note and rhythm matters less than the texture as a whole. His use of these compositional tools defied the classical form and helped take The Exorcist to a demonic dimension.
Although Penderecki's music feels like a horror film, he didn't write it for the screen. Much of his experimental work was inspired by the real-life terrors of World War II. As a boy in Poland, Penderecki witnessed the violence of Nazis in his hometown of Debica. Penderecki's music was also used in another landmark horror film, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Horror music, horror film
I've never seen a real horror film from start to finish, ever.
Is it just not your cup of tea?
When I was little, I used to get scared watching documentaries about, you know, those documentaries that talk about haunted houses or whatever.
But that stuff be real though.
Do you think that there's a stereotypical horror film sound?
I think the shrieking violins.
Stuff in the higher register, like...
Ah! Yeah.
Or even any dissonant interval. Dissonance is a common aspect of horror film music. One of the most effective ways to utilize it is through the tritone, a musical interval composed of 3 adjacent whole tones. A major third, or a perfect fifth. These are all consonant intervals where they sit quite comfortably in the ear. Let's compare that to a tritone. There's more tension there. It's a clashing dissonant sound that has helped it earn the name the devil's interval in music, and you can hear it in many horror films, like during the canoe scene in Friday the 13th, where composer Harry Manfredini repeats 2 tritones a half step apart.
Another common technique is to put familiar or non-threatening music into a creepy context. Often it's little kids singing children's songs. Also, quoting religious music can help set the stage for films that traffic in the demonic. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind used this technique in the opening of The Shining with their recomposition of Dies Irae, a 13th century Gregorian chant.
Playing instruments in specific or extreme ways is another powerful tool in horror film music. You'll often hear violins play sol ponticello, which means close to the bridge, combined with tremolo to produce eerily shrill sounds. Sometimes, simple techniques can be just as effective at heightening dread in horror films, such as using a bass line to mimic the sound of a heartbeat, as John Carpenter did in The Thing. The steady heartbeat gives us a clue that something menacing is constantly lurking nearby, and it's coming for the characters. Say that if, just with strings, there's something about sustaining a high note, like, can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
That just builds tension the more you do it.
True.
Also really low things like,
Yeah.
and then you put a cluster.
Do you want to approach me riding the bike in the hallway and confronting the twins? I'll approach the door.
Okay, now here's the score that we made for our horror film starring Toussaint Morrison from our fellow PBS series America from Scratch.
Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin, but I'll huff, I'll puff, I'll blow your house in.
Monstrum is a new show from PBS Digital Studios about monsters, myth, and lore. The show is written and hosted by Dr. Emily Zarka, who has a PhD in literature with a focus on monsters. Basically, she's a doctor of monsters. Head to the link in the description to check out the show and find out the origins of iconic monsters.
Doctor of Monsters.
Oh, what a great way to sum up everything.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
Well, and see what I like with her is she gets into some of those glissando.
Yep.
That's what they were using on the slides, and using tremolo.
Yep.
These kinds of sound techniques in horror, very useful at the right times.
Oh yeah. And when they were talking about the like the trombones or the horns doing the drop or the strings, doing whatever, doing that little drop down can be, whether it's the mod wheel or you do it with a pitch bend wheel. In this case, it's a button on this keyboard, so it does it as a half step drop, but there's no you don't stop part way, and it drops right back off when you let go.
Yeah, it's like your stomach drops when you hear that sound.
Exactly.
And what were those chords we heard mentioned several
Unrelated
times?
minor chords?
No,
Or
it started with an S. It's not stab chords, but
stingers.
Stingers. Gotta get my stinger on.
Like
Yeah.
the stabs. It's basically like stabs is another way to look at it, but it's basically chord stabs, but doing ones that sound good or, like a major chord is one thing, but doing something like you were saying before, the diminished chord, if you did something like that, you're getting more of a,
Yeah,
it can be
yeah.
more
I want to get
unsettling.
that psycho kind of effect for
Mhm.
this Georgie project
Yeah.
at certain times.
Yeah, I would say start with 2-note intervals. And like we were saying before, the ones, starting with a root note like a C and then picking one of the more, um, disturbing intervals, whether it's the note right next to it or whether it's the tritone, the note
And
between the fourth and the fifth.
my other decision is whether it's going to be piano or
Mhm.
violins.
Yeah. And could be horns. I mean, there's a lot of different choices there. It could be trash can banging sounds, but the interval of what matters.
Yeah, yeah. I have one particular scene where it's in a playground and,
Mhm.
kids are playing, and I do have some creepy playground sound effects going. There's a crickety swing, and these kids are on a seesaw that's clanking.
Mhm. And
It's
it's all in the
useful.
presentation.
Yeah, it's useful for some of the that rhythm they were talking about, that constant rhythm that's going on,
Mhm.
that's building to tension.
Yeah, and it can even start in one feel where it's not tense yet, and you have that rhythm started, and then you can start building the creepiness in, like you were saying, like whether it's the 2 notes and you're bringing the one that's bending slightly, or whether you're starting with just one very quiet texture, and then you bring in something loud all of a sudden.
And Maha took notes.
Mhm. Nice.
He took notes and turned them into a song.
Mhm. Yep, tritones. Yep, diminished chord, definitely.
The devil's interval. I have heard that
Mhm.
term often.
And that's just because it is that creepy sound. Does not sound nice. I mean, right there next door, the fifth sounds nice.
Well, I like what they put together there for that little horror video. Good homage to The Shining.
Oh yeah, and we saw a lot of that shark, like you said, because I mean, there's so much that was so groundbreaking, I guess, about being able to do so much with just the 2 notes in that way.
Yeah, Jaws pretty much got an honorable mention in every
Mhm.
video.
Oh yeah. So
And
maybe I'll be a shark for Halloween.
the other one that got a lot of mention was Halloween, and
Mhm.
the impact that really had in horror music. For me, John Carpenter really was that kind of bridge composer, going from that classical symphonic horror into synthesizer approach, and all horror music seemed to change after he came on the scene.
Yep, very influential.
And he really, right from the early works, started getting attention. I mean, Halloween was where he blew up, but as you're going to see, like how he got in and his evolution throughout decades of composing and making movies really helped to shape those 80s style horror movies that we love, and the 90s. He has been a very what proficient would you say?
Prolific.
Prolific,
Mhm.
that's the word.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Good
and
one.
I really like hunted around to find the perfect like short documentary on his career.
Mhm.
And Matt Draper, you are a champ, man. I couldn't pick any other one. This one is perfect. It really covers uh, um, John's like discography.
Nice.
Yeah, that's at Matt Draper over on YouTube. And there's the man, the
All right.
legend.
Let's check it out.
Director John Carpenter has helped shape decades of film through works such as Halloween, The Thing, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, and much, much more. While major mainstream success often eluded him during the heyday of his career, his filmography is often cited by countless creators today as a massive influence. But it's not just the stories he brought to the screen that helped shape the world of cinema as we know it today. Beyond directing, writing, and often editing his films, Carpenter composed the scores to almost every single movie that he created. And the sonic worlds that he crafted have not only influenced countless compositions, but have also made their mark in the world of music as a whole. Often only armed with a Korg Triton synthesizer, Carpenter created the vast majority of his most influential scores with a sparse but unforgettable approach that burrowed its way into the hearts and minds of millions. From the off-kilter creep of the Halloween theme to the rock and roll of vampires, Carpenter's scores have taken on a life of their own in the decades since they were first connected to image. If the idea of one man producing numerous soundtracks on only a synthesizer sounds boring and monotonous to you, you need to listen to more of Carpenter's work. The range of Carpenter's sound and his ability to capture a wide variety of mood tailored to the many different ideas present within his filmography reveals how Carpenter could crank out so many iconic genre films, especially during his heyday in the 80s. To better understand Carpenter's musical impact, let's first go back to his roots. Carpenter's father was a teacher of music theory, a composer, and a symphony musician, which led to the future director growing up in the world of sound. He was soon taught violin, guitar, and piano, and was part of a rock band in his youth. But his love of film led to him attending the USC School of Cinematic Arts in 1968. There, Carpenter's filmmaking aspirations combined with his musical background, leading to him beginning to score his own films out of pure necessity. Carpenter once said, "When you go to film school, you have to do everything yourself, and so you come to believe in some stupid place in your head that I can do this." Carpenter credits the films of Howard Hawks, John Ford, and Alfred Hitchcock with exposing him to the importance of music within film. In particular, the director has highlighted Bernard Herrmann's theremin-based score to The Day the Earth Stood Still, B.B. and Louis Barron's electronic circuit-powered score to Forbidden Planet, Tangerine Dream's soundtrack to Sorcerer, and Wendy Carlos's Moog synthesizer work on the highly influential Switched on Bach as pushing him towards synthesizer sounds in particular. Carpenter has said that his career in music is almost completely improvisational, meaning that after cutting together a movie without any temp music, he would compose a score to it and sync up sound to image as he saw fit. As a composer, Carpenter has often likened his film scores to being cinematic wallpaper or, quote, carpet music, meaning that he seeks to provide dressing to the scene without overtaking the action on screen. And that approach is apparent in almost every soundtrack composed by the director, who has emphasized a minimalist approach to his scoring work, and in an attempt to produce a maximum effect through the simplest means. Carpenter once said that music can make you see better, but also actively tried to avoid overselling the emotions on screen. To the director, the image came first, and the music was made to serve and support it. However, this detachment of action within a scene from musical arrangement may be a key to the longevity and influence of Carpenter's scores. His great musical compositions capture the essence and tone of his films incredibly well, playing off the often macabre nature of his stories while also heightening them through darkly cool undertones. Without the need for narrative context, someone can listen to Carpenter's musical output and enjoy it completely on its own. Yes, this can be said about most amazing film scores, but the one-of-a-kind nature of Carpenter's work means it stands out amongst a history of cinema soundtracks that are most often brought to life by a full orchestra. With no budget for his student films, including the Academy Award-winning short The Resurrection of Broncho Billy, Carpenter realized that he could create a robust electronic orchestral sound on his own through the multi-tracking capabilities of synths. The same philosophy would be applied to his first feature film, Dark Star, on which Carpenter used what he describes as an unbelievably crude synthesizer, which may have been an EMS VCS-3. As Carpenter started creating synth scores before sampling, he relied on tube amplifiers to tune various waveforms and alter his sounds in the ways he needed, which naturally lent to a sci-fi feel. Carpenter's sound was established early on in his career, with the score to Assault on Precinct 13 and its themes showing the approach he would take with film scores over the next 3 decades. Of course, Carpenter didn't need any encouragement to provide his own score. An ultra-low-budget affair, saving money on the soundtrack by doing it himself and being able to indulge his musical passions was incentive enough. The score to Assault on Precinct 13 was completed in a single day, with Carpenter completing 3 to 4 pieces of music and then cutting and reusing them throughout the film during the editing process. Carpenter has divulged in the time since that the film's main theme was created as a riff on 2 pieces, Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song and Lalo Schifrin's Dirty Harry score. And while the film's theme is well known for its rattling drum sound, Carpenter didn't actually have a drum machine or percussion at the time. Instead, the beat was created with the use of a metronome and a phaser to adjust the sound and fade it in and out. It's a perfect example of how low-budget necessity would continue to shape Carpenter's musical output. The success of Assault on Precinct 13 and its soundtrack allowed the director to continue making films and their scores the way he wanted. It soon became a hallmark of Carpenter, and led to what is likely his most iconic piece of music. If Carpenter had only created the soundtrack to the original Halloween, he would still have made a lasting impact on film fans. Its swirling, almost inescapable sonic atmosphere is designed to unnerve the audience from the first moments that we slowly creep toward a grinning jack-o'-lantern. The Halloween theme is done in 5/4 time, and the main beat plays across a single octave. Yet that off-kilter time signature and sparse nature is what has made it not only an incredibly creepy piece of music, but an unforgettable one. Carpenter cites the major influences of the Halloween score as Goblin's prog rock soundtrack to Suspiria and Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells in The Exorcist. With a little more financing, Carpenter was able to complete the score to Halloween in 3 days. This creeping score and its minor stings for scares play a massive role in the dark mood of his highly influential film. And while Carpenter would become best known for his many horror films, his macabre movies would take on many different sounds despite their coexistence within the same genre. The almost psychedelic sounds of Halloween 3, which Carpenter produced and scored but didn't direct, stand in stark contrast to the original's iconic high-pitched menace or the sequel's darker, meaner twist on the first film's themes. It's most certainly on purpose, with Carpenter attempting to turn the series into an anthology of independent films with the third entry. In particular, Chariots of Pumpkins is a standout track. Contrast that to his work on The Fog, which reaches back into the gothic piano sounds of classic horror for a thunderous and truly spooky score that wonderfully suits the old-school ghost story being told by Carpenter. It's a fuller and more classically influenced work than his previous efforts, but it's absolutely dripping with mood. A greater use of atmospherics here than in most of his previous work fills out the sound and can be seen as a major moment in Carpenter's progression as a film composer. The score to The Fog lurks and howls, adding timeless menace to a film that is trying to haunt the audience rather than outright terrify them. Of course, Carpenter wasn't just about lurking menace. The theme to Escape from New York is the epitome of detached cool, just like main character Snake Plissken himself. It's undoubtedly a hero's theme, but Carpenter keeps the lead character's song from ever feeling too heroic to prevent his anti-hero from becoming a more traditional leading man. The rest of the film's score has hints of funk, as seen in the Duke's theme, and adds an overall feeling of cold menace appropriate for a movie set inside a dystopian prison within an even more dystopian world. Escape from New York also marked the first time that Carpenter worked with Alan Howarth on his scores. Howarth, who previously worked in sound effects and some music, helped to pre-program and tune Carpenter's synthesizers in order to bring a greater technical polish and refinement to the director's sound, as his films also became larger and more cinematic. In addition, Escape from New York marked the first time that Carpenter scored to images. Prior to this film, the composer would create multiple pieces on their own and edit them into the picture as necessary. The following years would also see multiple films directed by Carpenter but scored by different composers. Almost all of the films directed but not scored by Carpenter are the creator's biggest budget efforts. These include The Thing by Ennio Morricone, Starman by Jack Nietzsche, and Memoirs of an Invisible Man by Shirley Walker. However, Carpenter's influence can still be felt throughout their sounds, especially in The Thing. Carpenter's later work in the more lighthearted Big Trouble in Little China and even They Live saw him incorporating a full band for a more propulsive, action-oriented score that lived up to the honky-tonk swagger of his film's heroes. It makes sense when you realize that Carpenter had loved rock and roll even before he began making films, and the ability to make movies that allowed for a full band quickly led to him embracing the musical genre in his scores. That shift toward rock and the inclusion of electric guitars would continue to have an influence on Carpenter's sound in the years afterward, including his return to horror with Prince of Darkness. It's true that Carpenter's music in the 90s is less loved and discussed than his work in the previous decades, but that can be largely attributed to the less than stellar quality of these films as a whole. The movies became less well received, but the soundtracks remained strong for the most part. Throughout these many scores, we see Carpenter's effective use of simple yet incredibly memorable melody. And because the director was able to exercise control over the stories, sounds, and sights of his creations, they've remained highly evocative and thematically resonant. After announcing his semi-permanent retirement from directing in 2010, the trend toward rock continued. Carpenter released several new versions of old songs over the years, and his recent anthology album saw the director revisiting his extensive catalog with an aggressive, more rock-focused sound. Even the director's lesser-discussed works like Christine or In the Mouth of Madness, even the dreadful Escape from LA, all feature some awesome pieces of music, with many of these getting some extra polish on anthology. The theme from Christine in particular has shifted from low-key menace to a full-bodied piece of rock and roll terror in this new iteration. In addition, Carpenter's 2 albums of original music, Lost Themes 1 and 2, embrace the sound that already made him famous for his compositions and provide a somewhat tighter structure that comes along with making music for an album rather than a film. While the direct impact of Carpenter's music could be seen in the film scores of the 80s, especially in the synth-heavy soundtracks of the countless slasher films that attempted to copy the formula and success of Halloween, numerous film scores and various musical subgenres within the last decade have truly highlighted the legacy of Carpenter's musical creations. Most often, the films whose sounds feel most heavily influenced by the horror icon's scores are those that also align with his stories and directorial style. After all, these elements work together so well in the first place, and Carpenter's filmography has had an equal impact on modern directors and writers. Consider the 2014 indie horror film It Follows. With a lurking suburban menace and a stillness to its camera work, the film has Carpenter, and especially the iconic Halloween, written all over it. But the biggest fingerprints can be found in the synth-powered score by Disaster Piece, which uses Carpenter's stripped-down, slowly crescendoing approach to horror scores to great effect. Other scores, like Sonoya Cave's trance-like Beyond the Black Rainbow, the score to Netflix's ode to the 80s Stranger Things, and many more owe a great deal to Carpenter in their choices to use moody, resonant, refrain-heavy synthesizer compositions. These film scores strike an otherworldly chord that adds fresh, yet seemingly familiar ideas to a modern film score landscape that has been increasingly dependent on distortion-heavy music that blurs the line between soundtrack and diegetic sound. But the musical legacy of Carpenter is greater than just the sounds behind films. It's bled out into the music world as a whole. As kids who grew up watching Carpenter's films on repeat, along with the works of other artists who helped explode the synth-fueled sound of the 80s like Tangerine Dream, Vangelis, and Jan Hammer, have modernized the sound of the era into the nostalgic yet progressive subgenre of synthwave. Today, we have countless artists throwing their own unique spins on the synth sounds of Carpenter, blending homages and new ideas for fresh feels on old emotions. As more and more musicians lend their unique interest to the subgenre, even more styles are formed and refined, so that this new wave of retro music can remain vibrant and growing. And while it may seem like everything old is new again, the timeless appeal of John Carpenter's music shows that his sound has never really gone out of style. It's just back in the spotlight and bigger than ever.
What an awesome tribute, Matt, you did there.
Absolutely. And as you're saying, Big Trouble in Little China, I mean, I've seen that movie so many times. I mean, so many times.
Oh yeah. When it came on HBO, every time it would be on, I would actually watch it over and over.
It was one of those for me as well, as was something like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, for example. It was
Yeah,
on my list.
and They Live is one of my all-time favorite movies.
That one I haven't seen
Period.
as many times, but I've definitely seen that one a bunch of times too, for sure.
Yeah.
Riley Piper.
Those for me were like every afternoon movies.
Yep. I hear you. Lots of good stuff there.
Seeing Carpenter's like approach, both from the filmmaking side and making the music, and clearly he could have easily just gone and been a musician, never even thought about making movies, and he would have been in his element. That's like in him. Doing the movie thing, and especially back then, low budgets, and horror movies weren't getting the kind of budget love that they get nowadays. John was smart and like, hey, I've got this talent, and now I want to be a unique director out there, and he is.
Oh, yeah.
Some, I watch his movies not just for the awesome music, not just for the awesome camera angles and style that he has. It's for the whole package.
Yeah, and think about writing. He was talking about writing maybe 4 songs for a movie and cutting them up and using them throughout the entire movie. Imagine writing 4 songs that capture enough
I don't
range of
have to
emotion.
imagine it.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle of that right
yeah,
now.
exactly.
I've I've got about 7 minutes of good music score,
Nice.
and I've got 65 minutes where I need
Oh yeah,
it.
yep. And that's where you can stretch. You can reuse. I mean, there's ways to use themes, especially because you want to revisit themes, especially when it comes to
The
identifying a theme with a character.
the nice thing that I got from the composer on this one, Darian's writing desk is the
Mhm,
one helping me with it. He gave me like 4 parts in one score,
mhm.
and each part is designed for that calming moment, then the
Right.
tension buildup moment. Between those 4 parts, I'm gonna sprinkle that shit all over it.
Oh yeah, nice. Gotta love it.
Yeah. And after seeing everything we saw tonight, I do have some ideas like, why didn't I think of using glissando
Sure.
strategically?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if you're going to go for a big shift in notes, like if you're going from like a C up to the G, an octave above, you're going a whole octave and a half. That's one kind of glissando. That you're going to do that over 10 seconds, right?
Well,
Another kind
I've
is just a really short, only a note or a half away.
yeah, I've got a couple of different scenarios where, like, the kids on the seesaw as they're going up and down,
Mhm,
getting that in the strings, like, like with the string effect.
mhm,
I do want to do that. And the kid on the swings, who's like kind of a metronome almost, constant. This kid is awesome.
mhm,
Uh, Getting the music to actually represent that swinging.
exactly. And that's where the interval makes a difference too. Like if you go with a root and the 5 beneath it, you get that kind of
Yeah,
a bounce going.
that's actually what the playground scene sounds like.
Mhm,
The way Darian put it together, he was thinking like ice cream truck man
mhm,
driving by the park, and
sure.
you kind of hear this ice cream truck kind of melody, but there's this dum 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 dum
Mhm.
dum that's building up as it starts to get creepy.
Exactly. And using a note, that's just a whole step below, sounds totally different than using the 5 under. And, same thing depends on which interval you want to use, but that 5 is one of those that is very common and the ear
Uh,
expects
uh,
it because
it gives you that kind of like walking. It's a different kind of heartbeat.
Mhm.
It's more like the left, right, left, right.
Yep, yep. And you can add motion by, taking that same idea and doing like do that twice and then move down a whole step and do that twice and then move back up. You can kind of dance it back and forth.
Yeah, Nari had mentioned a term, the Mickey Mousing it. Is
Mhm.
that what she called it?
She did.
Like where you're actually writing
To the music
to a
or to
to a
the to
ki-
the
to a character's like movement.
Right. And that's where, to me, it's also like the guys who did the sound effects, like the slapstick stuff, where you're watching the film and when you see somebody slap the other guy, like they have, a thing in their hand and a microphone, and they're going whoosh, like they're making the sound of the slap, but they're watching it on screen at the time to get the timing just right. Same idea here, except, they're doing it musically. They want to get the sound just right for when the character comes out and you get that stab, you get that up top for whatever you're trying to get.
It's like being a sound engineer for the Three Stooges and
Yeah.
then doing a karate movie.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to be ready for anything there.
I'm gonna smack everybody
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And just even being ready to just fall down, like throw yourself down on the sound stage, and they had all probably different shoes lined up for footsteps that sound like muffled, or footsteps that sound like clanking or whatever, all kinds
Well,
of different stuff
I
going
do need footsteps in the sewer, so
on.
I need that kind of like tunnel hollowy, like walking in the water in the sewer.
Yeah, and it would be like dress shoes where you get that like the click and then whatever, or is it more like sneakers, or what kind of footsteps do you need is the question.
I'm not ready to go actually walk in the sewer.
And do you want the splashing as well? That's the other question.
That's
The
a little
water.
easier.
Mhm. Adding in a little splash, little effect here and there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some hunting for tricks there. And yes, con artist is a fellow they live lover.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that one as well for sure. Roddy Piper.
And at Matt Draper, awesome documentary there. Great homage to an amazing composer and film director.
Yeah, and lots of great examples for sure.
Perfect, like opportunity. I've been wanting to like do a kind of like tribute night like that, and for Carpenter, it's super important. His influence to me is monumental.
Yeah, most definitely. And we only have what, minutes left until Halloween?
Yeah, it's
We're
gonna
just about there.
be. I'm gonna have to turn around
Ooh,
and say trick or treat.
See, I wore the black, you didn't wear the orange. Oh.
Well, I'm blue, so we're black and blue.
There you go. Could have got away with it. Look, I don't think I have any orange around. Sorry. Or you have spooky sounds. You get that tritone happening.
And I think they got candy corn upstairs that I'm definitely going to be tapping into.
Nice. Yeah, I had to definitely, safety check some of those Reese's that were around here, and they were all good. You know, no problems with any of them.
I've
But they're all
never
gone.
met a Reese's I didn't like.
I did see they had some Reese's pumpkin something, and I mean, if I'm going to buy something that's got the name Reese's on it, it's going to be peanut butter and chocolate. I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
just me.
yeah, I know. I
That's
have the
just me.
same expectation.
Because do you know how good that would have to be for me to be like, yeah, compared to getting the peanut butter and chocolate? So
Unless Reese's wants to like donate them to us and we'll taste test them, in which
that would
case
be
I'll try
that
them
would be a
all.
good plan. Yeah, let's get the fun size, like the big bag, right? So that we can make sure to have a good sampling from a bunch of different people.
Oh, and speaking of sampling, that's going to be a night coming up. There's going to be a little synth focus and some sampling focus.
Nice.
That's definitely coming.
I like it. And we'll be around for next week as well. So join us again.
Yeah, we might be hanging out actually tomorrow. Special Halloween little watch party of some of our favorite like horror. Jason mentioned like a gathering.
Nice. We'll have to check it out. I might be going to a live thing, a live band going out tomorrow night, but I'm not a big fan of going out on Halloween just because driving around.
I'm surprised you don't have a gig every Halloween because that's a night where bands play.
Well, we do have a gig the night after Halloween and the morning after that. So Saturday night and Sunday. And Saturday night is kind of it's a costume party. It's an outdoor thing where usually, like if it's chilly, people are wearing costumes and it's fine because they're wearing warm costumes. But like
Yeah.
I remember it was cold and windy like last year. I'm curious how it's going to end up this week, but we'll see.
When Halloween's on Friday, technically the whole weekend is.
Exactly,
So-
and that's where Saturday's going to be a costume party, and then Sunday. I mean, it could be, or it could be pre-Christmas. Who knows? It could just be, could just be fun. That gig I think is like a noon load-in or so. So it's like an early afternoon thing. Anyway.
And if you got to dress up, go as a deadhead. All you got to do is throw a tie dye on.
Sure. I mean, I have a few options of throw together costumes, but I generally don't because I am one of the sound guys. So I'm technically working while I'm there. So I'm usually just trying to stay out of the way and respond to the band. And all that.
You're
But
a
the band,
giant. You're a
I am.
giant. You don't have to dress. You could just say, "I'm a giant."
Yeah. And I mean, I have done like I glued like thumbtack heads, like they looked like bolts on my neck.
You
And I
went
did the
Frankenstein.
I did. And I had a friend's overcoat that was like too short, so like the sleeves were like, only partway up. So it was good. Walk around, do all that kind of thing. But
I can do that.
when I'm working, like I'd rather just help the band do their thing. And in this case, the band, I want to say the last time, one of them was a knight with like the full on like metal crusader helmet on, and a full on two-handed sword. So I mean, they were going all out with their costumes. And she was, I think, Batgirl one year, the lead singer, and one year she was Madonna, and one year she was Cher. She has a bunch of different looks that she'll go for randomly. Everybody in the band was dressing up, so it's a fun gig every time.
Especially if you're covering those songs. Like, I like a cover band where it looks like it's actually Cyndi Lauper.
Oh yeah, and in this case, it's an '80s band, so they do all kinds of '80s stuff. Fun stuff.
Party on, costume or not. That's definitely a fun weekend.
Yeah, and that's for Saturday, Sunday. And then tomorrow is a friend of ours who also does sound, has been trying to get us to come out and see this one band that I've never gone out to check out. But tomorrow night is one of those few times where the band has a gig and we don't. So it's one of those times where I could technically go out, but it's like, do I want to drive around on Halloween? And I will decide tomorrow, but I probably will. So there is that.
It is kind of like New Year's Eve. Like you will get little checkpoints and
yeah.
You've been drinking tonight, son?
And again, for me, that's usually not a problem. Again, me having such a nice, deep voice, and when I have these conversations, usually if I am driving home 2-3 in the morning from some of these gigs, I mean, maybe I've had a drink, but I'm so many hours removed from having any drinks by the time that I'm actually driving, and we've been working for hours, like bringing all the gear out, loading it in the car. So we're more like covered in sweat and getting everything into the car and then driving home. And they can tell, just it's kind of like look over my shoulder and you can see all the crap that's in my car that's all related to the sound and light stuff. And they can just be like, you're obviously working.
Yeah, the cops like, you are working. Well, I'm working too.
Exactly. And I get why he's pulling people over and all that stuff. So I'm not the guy who's like, hey man, why are you pulling me? Like, that's just idiotic. Like, to me, I'm the kind of person, I'm on his side. I want to get him back to the business of finding the people that he wants to find, which are the people who are a danger right now because they're driving around when they shouldn't be. And if I shouldn't be driving around, I won't be behind the wheel. I'll be lying down wherever it was, and I'll probably be very silly and laughing, but it doesn't, I'm never that far out of control when I'm going out somewhere knowing I'm driving home, because I know I'm driving home. It's important.
And I'll be there at home being silly and laughing.
That's right. And that's all good too. And that's where this makes it much better, to where we don't have to go anywhere. We can sit at home, get silly, and not have to do anything. But it's good to go out too.
We'll be getting silly again next Thursday.
Yes. Come join us again. We'll do it again.
You get ready for Thanksgiving. Ange's working on a turkey song.
Gobble, 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 gobble. Gotta get the gobble gobble going.
Gobble gobble, everyone.
Gobble gobble. See you guys next time. Take care.
All right.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin Shhh I.T. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rev. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking Shhh